Wentz is to blame. And I've been saying this all year. There are other things. You guys can talk about the other things. He's the quarterback of the team. He got paid. His mechanics, Dan can talk about that much better than I can. His decision-making, his accuracy, everything is regressing. He is not an elite quarterback. He's not even an average quarterback right now. And the worst part about it is it's at a time in his career where he's supposed to be ascending. Remember that whole Wentz versus Dak thing? Guys, I was very comfortable saying, please, I like Dak a lot. He has all the intangibles, but Wentz is a different kind of animal. I couldn't take Wentz over Dak right now. I couldn't do it. And remember, to start the season, my focus with Wentz is, could he be a leader? Because Nick Foles juiced the team. Everyone wanted, special teams, defense, offense, everyone wanted to play for Nick Foles and with Nick Foles. And Wentz, as I was saying, it was coming out of the locker room, right? It's not that he doesn't want to lead. He hasn't figured out how yet. So I was really looking for that. And he's failed in that respect so far this year. But with his ability to make big plays, with his talent, given his age, his relationship with his head coach, etc., like you would expect those things to kind of ascend, and it has been the exact opposite. I don't want to hear about drops and this and that and injuries. You guys say whatever you want. At a certain point, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. They're not good. And Wentz has been the problem. The pocket's about to collapse. Or he thinks the pocket's going to collapse, but it holds, right? He bailed on the play. No, wrong. Or the pocket's collapsing, get out of there, and he gets sacked. There's a play down the field. You got to force it down the field a little bit. That's when he dinks and dunks. Or there's nothing down the field. You have to check down. That's when he won't do it. His instincts are completely shot. He's doing everything backwards. Every decision he's making seems to be the wrong one. His accurate, everything's bad, and he's not leading. Guys, I was a huge Dak guy. Dan could talk.
You mean you're a huge Wentz guy?
Excuse me, Wentz guy. Yeah. Now, a Freudian slip. I was a huge Wentz guy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You got to say what you see. Yes, it's on Wentz.
Well, you have to say what you see. You just don't have a license to see for everybody else. Even with those Beetlejuice eyes of yours, you don't get to see for the rest of us. You get to see for you. We respect.
See a lot with these eyes.
Well, listen, nobody's refuting what you're saying about Carson Wentz in all fairness to you, because you are absolutely right. He has regressed. He has digressed. It has looked bad. He lost that game for them yesterday. 2 lost fumbles, 2 interceptions, overthrowing, underthrowing. He was absolutely awful. There's no question. And when you juxtapose that to what you saw from Russell Wilson, 3 key plays he needed to make, including, the flea flicker for a touchdown, and, once he connected with Carson, another time he connected with somebody else. There's no doubt we saw what we saw from Russell Wilson. There's levels to this, and Carson Wentz wasn't on it. But where I give Carson Wentz a break, albeit not necessarily yesterday, is when you look at the Eagles in its totality. You know the person that I think is the culprit in all of this? Howie Roseman.
Oh,
excuse
sure.
me. Let's take this into consideration. I am reading, Max, Kellerman, and Dan, from an article written in March. This is in March in the off season, where people in Philadelphia were lamenting the folks that he was bringing on board. And just to name a few: Jason Peters, 37, Deshaun Jackson, 32, Kelsey, 31, Bram, 30, Sundeo, 31, etc. They were like, you ain't bringing on anybody on board in their mid-20s. You did re-sign Darby. We get all of that. And a couple of other guys. But for the most part, everybody you were bringing in was over 30. Yesterday, what does Carson Wentz have available to him? You're down your leading pass rusher. He's out of the game. But also your top 3 receivers in Deshaun Jackson, in Alshon Jeffrey, in Nelson Aguilar. So when you look at it from that perspective and you think about the plethora of injuries that they've had to sustain this season, you Carson Wentz, and from earlier on in the season, you've had to figure out ways to try to compensate. So if you walk into a game recognizing that you're behind the 8 ball, sometimes you're going to pressurize yourself. You're going to put yourself in a situation where you're saying, damn, this is what I'm devoid of. This is what I have to work around. This is what I'm going to have to do in order to win this game. And you might not be capable of that. So I'm not absolving him. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit up here and say he has not been bad.
You're making excuses for him.
Reasons. But I'm giving reasons, not excuses. These are valid reasons. If I'm a quarterback and I go into a game without my top 3 weapons, and I don't have a running game to begin with, it's like, damn. I mean, come on. And so if you're looking at the Eagles hierarchy, how do you pay a guy $109 million in guaranteed dollars and then forget to give him the assets to make your investment look good? I don't think that makes much sense.
Carson Wentz has to bear the brunt of this criticism and blame.
For today.
Well, for a lot of this season, so certainly the past month.
Okay.
There's no bigger supporter or fan of Carson Wentz than me. I think he's going to win MVP in this league at some point. I think he's that talented of a player. But if I'm going to sit here 6 weeks ago and say, Dak Prescott, when you go on the road against the New York Jets without some of your players, you have to win that football game if you're going to go to Jerry Jones and say, give me $40 million. Carson Wentz has already gotten his money. So the last 2 weeks, that defense has played good enough to beat 2 playoff teams in New England and Seattle. And the quarterback and offense has let them down. And I know that's an improbable ask to do. And I know that's unfair to do. But when much is given, much is expected. And so when they cut that check to him, part of the reason they cut that check is going, you can overcome the moments when we're deprived of our talent. You're good enough. And it wasn't there with Carson. So yes, the receivers are out. His right tackle, Lane Johnson, was out. The right guard, Brandon Brooks, goes out. I get all that. And you're playing against a good team. But that's when you have to have your moments. Stephen A., you made an outstanding point that when you go into the game as a quarterback and you know that you're without those guys, you have to change the way you play. In that moment, Tom Brady's the greatest ever at it, of changing the way he's playing because of what's around you. What do I need to do on December 24th to win this game without all those people? It's not about being the best player on the field in that moment or taking all the stats or I can't make sure that I have to make sure we don't lose this football game.
That's why.
So that's why he's got to bear the criticism right now.
We're going to talk about Tom Brady in a little while, but that's why when I call a guy a game manager, people think that's an insult. Take it how you want. Carson Wentz has to learn how to be a game manager and with his talent, break off the big plays when you need it most. He's done the opposite.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.